All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Pilipinx-American Stories podcast. We here want to better understand the different aspects of the Filipinx-American diaspora. We cover topics such as, but are not limited to, history, community, and Filipinx-American culture. And I am your host, Alfredo. Our guest for this week is Texas-based artist Nicole Solis. She's been doing art for some time now, and she's here to tell you her story. One thing to note about her journey is that she's been doing this for a long time. She's been doing this since childhood, and now she's at this point where she's doing a lot of amazing projects, a lot of amazing collaborations, and she still has a lot more life to live with her craft. So I'm super excited for y'all to hear this because it is such an amazing story, and personally, it's inspired me to continue my own artistic journey. She leaves us off with some really good advice towards the end, talking about what to do when you're really just starting out with your artistic journey. And it's something that I'm personally taking to heart and using in my own artistic journey as well. So, with that being said, I hope y'all enjoy it and I bring you episode 8. All right, welcome back, everyone. We have another amazing episode for season 2 with another amazing guest. This artist is an illustrator, a visual development artist, and a designer. We have Nicole Solis on the line. Nicole, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good.
So, like I was saying, like off the recording and everything, like the first time, like I saw your stuff, or actually no, before like you were doing stuff with Lumika, like the first time I saw like your work was like on Instagram and everything. And I don't know if you get this like a lot, but I honestly thought you were like from LA. Like I didn't even know you were from Texas.
Oh yeah, I get this a lot. I'm not sure what it is about the vibe that I give off, but a lot of people think that I'm based in California. I did go to school there, so that could be a contributing factor.
I think I just got so used to it because I'm mainly, well, I mean, considering how big California is, like I'm just so used to like everyone coming from here, but like
Mm.
realizing like your work over in Texas and along with like the Filipinx artists of Houston and everything, it's like, yo, there's a pretty strong like art scene over there, and I'm so glad.
Yeah.
So more on the question of like how like you I mean like how your history is, like your, I guess your origin story, so to speak. You've been doing like illustrations, or you've been doing work as an illustrator, a visual development artist, and a designer. Like, how did you get started, like with each craft?
So with illustration, I don't remember a time where I wasn't drawing. Like I've always been drawing ever since I was a kid. I think it sparked from my love of Pokemon. Like I remember getting like those Pokemon books and then like redrawing them myself. And then I've always loved cartoons, so I would always make like little fan art of my favorite shows growing up. And for visual development, whenever I went to art school a couple years back, I actually thought that I wanted to be a storyboard artist. And for those who don't know what a storyboard artist is, it's basically whenever you draw out the sequential scenes for like animation, whether it be shows or movies. And that's what I thought I wanted to do. But then whenever I actually majored in animation, I figured out that I liked character designing and like doing all the pre-production stuff with like designing backgrounds and props and characters. So that's why I want to go into visual development. And then as a designer, I actually never really saw myself as a designer until recently, and still then it's I still don't feel qualified enough to call myself one. But last year I started or last year I became an officer for the Filipino Student Association at my university. And then I took up the position of graphics chair and then started designing from there. And I actually found out that I really love it. And I enjoy making designs for clothes and for stickers and all of that.
Oh, it kind of sounds like, at least for like the illustration part and like the whole drawing part of it, it's like it's it seems like it's grown a lot since then, and a lot of other
Mhm.
opportunities that came about just kind of, I mean, did you feel like those opportunities as like in terms of like visual development and like design and everything, did they kind of just like fall into your lap?
Um, I would say for visual development, I technically haven't gotten any opportunities for that just yet. I'm hoping for in the future to get a job in visual development. But for design, I feel like I just networked really well with people, and my biggest, I would say, accomplishment with design, which is my collaboration with Avocado. Um, I feel like that was just like by chance, and I've been a big supporter of their company for a while, and then they eventually like saw that, and then saw my art, and then presented me with the opportunity. So I feel like it kind of fell in my lap, but also like not just because like I got lucky, but also because they saw something in my art that resonated with them.
Mm. So is it kind of like, or is it, do you have to be down with like whoever is like asking for that kind of stuff? Like, do you have any specific like types of, I'm trying to figure out the right words, but like any type of specific like working requirements when it comes to like doing those kind of collaborations?
Yeah, so whenever it comes to doing collaborations, I want to be familiar with the brand first. I've been presented with some opportunities for collaborations, but I didn't necessarily know the brand, and I didn't really know the people, and I wasn't quite sure if um, their intentions were correct or anything. It's just more like how I feel about like the people running that business. So, like for instance, with Avocado, I felt very comfortable collaborating with them because I had already seen their brand. Like I'd become acquainted with the type of products they make, and in the messages that I had exchanged with the owners. They seemed really nice, and it's just overall like I felt like they weren't using me or anything. They were just really nice and truly just wanted to make like a great product together.
So, I mean, just talking about the line a little bit more, like, how did you like come up with some of the stuff? Like, I mean, like you've had art similar to it before, but it looks a little bit more refined for this specific line. Like, how did you like? What was your process looking with that kind of line and everything?
For the Sun and Moon collection,
Yeah.
so for this one, I wanted to make it a bit more realistic and kind of like a like Banty esque kind of style, but like more graphic because I understand my style is like very illustrative and like cutesy, if anything. Um, but for the collaboration with Avocado, I wanted to make it a more mature design with like more realistic elements rather than like my typical like style, which panders to animation and like a more cartoony style. So my thought process for this one is I wanted to make a design that like I would think is really cool. Like if I saw somebody wearing it and like I wanted to think like, oh, that's a really cool shirt. Like I want to wear that. And so that's kind of my thought process whenever I was designing or I was collaborating on the design that for that collection. Yeah.
Is your thought process like essentially the same when it comes to creating like your own stuff and everything? Like, is that process basically the same?
I would say overall it's the same. The only difference is that like I don't really have another person's aesthetic in mind. So with Avocado's collection, I had their style in mind, like the very minimalistic, like simplistic design, which I absolutely love. Um, but whenever it comes to designing stuff for my own shop, it's more like uh, how can I like show my art the best that I can, but I'm not keeping anybody else's like style in mind.
So do the things you create kind of like do you have like inspiration from somewhere, or like do you take it from like, I don't know, from childhood, from just like experiences and all that? Like, how do you, I guess, digging deeper into the process of like how you create your art, like how does, like what is the catalyst when it comes to things like you create?
So I definitely have an inspiration for everything that I make. For majority of my work, like a lot of it is inspired by Filipino culture and Filipino mythology. That's something that I definitely keep in mind. Stylistic wise, I feel like my style is just a big conglomeration of like stuff that I grew up with and stuff that I really love, like Avatar and Disney and other cartoons that I really admire. So I feel like all of my art is just like a big um, combination of all of those things. Stuff that I love, which is my culture, and other stuff that I love, which are the shows that I grew up with.
So it's essentially like a culmination of like everything that has embodied you from like childhood to like now, right?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
So going more into, I mean, you mentioned doing more like Filipinx mythology and representation.
hmm
What is something about like those topics that gravitate towards you so much?
So I grew up consuming like a lot of like escapism and fantasy um, types of stories. Like growing up, Percy Jackson was my absolute favorite book series, and that's all about Greek mythology. And then as I grew up, I started looking for more representation, like people who came from the Philippines or like people who look like me. And I just found nothing. Like there's nothing on it, at least nothing American produced that focuses on um, any Filipino centric narrative. So I took it upon myself to study more on Filipino mythology. For anyone wondering, a great way to get more involved with Filipino mythology and learn more is the Aswang Project. It's a website that just like breaks it down for you, like based on region, like about mythology, and it's a really great source for anybody who wants to learn more about it. But I was really drawn towards it because I'd always loved mythology. I loved the idea of like deities and like the creation of the world and all of that. I've always loved it. I've loved just anything that doesn't seem realistic, like anything that um, just helps you escape real life. So combining that fantasy element with like wanting to know more about my culture, I was so drawn to Filipino mythology.
So everything kind of just clicked at that point when you like how did you stumble upon this exactly? Were you just like look was this the first thing or the Aswan project was that like the first thing you found about mythology?
I think it's the earliest memory, like it's the earliest like biggest source that I found that has like a lot of information about Filipino mythology. I do remember stumbling across the story of Apalaki and Mayari, which is what a lot of my art revolves around. It's the story of why the sun shines brighter than the moon and follows the story of Apalaki, the sun god, and his sister Mayari, the moon goddess. I've always been um, very attracted to like like opposite aesthetics, which is like sun and the moon.
So going actually like before I go into like the piece and everything, but like one thing that I respect a lot, especially with the stuff that you're doing, like you weren't seeing a lot of this created by I guess just like for the masses and everything or like American made or whatever. So that's big respect for you to take that into your hands to do the research and actually put something out, especially if it's something that's validating to you and validating to like a lot of other people because you really don't get to see that. Going more onto like the sun and moon piece and everything, I remember actually first seeing this like in person at like Lumika and everything. Like it seems like you went more into detail about like the symmetry behind it and everything. Like
Mhm.
what made that specific piece at Lumika stand out like beyond the other things you made before?
For that piece, like I felt that I was playing more with their duality more than ever. We're talking about the Lumika 2020 piece, right? The women's
Yeah.
circles. Yeah. Um, yeah, I really got to explore more like how they're complete opposites of one another, but in a way that they're equals, since they rule the universe in their mythology. They rule the universe as equal parts. Apolaki ruling the day as Mayari rules the night. So I really wanted to play with those themes of like they're um, complete opposites, but they're equals in um, the ways that they rule the universe. And I really got to play with how I pictured them in my head. I never made such a detailed piece of their faces, and with those paintings, I was really able to explore that.
I really like how you go very in depth with this kind of stuff because you don't really get to see the artistic process or the artistic mind behind this stuff. Like a lot of people are so used to just seeing like the final product and everything and just
Hmm.
you going into it. It's like there's a different layer of like why pieces like this matter to you, matter to other people, like how your mind is working, and it's like it get like I said, it just gives another layer of like what the piece means and everything.
Hmm.
Okay, so we've actually moved into our little mid-segment question, and this is usually where I ask people, or I try to dig a little bit deeper about what they want to work on for the future and everything. So, if you do you have like a dream project that you eventually want to work on, or is there a next big thing that you're currently working on right now?
I'm not currently working on anything big at the moment. I would like to be employed after graduation. That would be my next biggest thing. Um, Employed by a studio or a literary agency for illustration. But my dream project would be to direct a feature length film on Filipino mythology at a big studio. That would be my ultimate dream. I would love to explore like even more deities and more aspects about Filipino mythology and see it on screen, on the big screen, as a feature length film. I think that'd be my ultimate goal. That and doing um, like TV animation as well. I would love to be a showrunner. Um, and for that show, like it to, um, I would like the show's premise to be about a Filipino girl exploring her identity um, as a Filipino person. I know growing up that it's kind of difficult as a Filipino American to explore your Filipino identity because there is that disconnect and just being able to connect with your roots. I would love to be a showrunner for a show like that.
Ooh, that show concept sounds amazing, especially since we don't have those kind of shows like this, and for you to eventually like take that into like your own hands, again, mad respect for that.
Thank you.
And going more into like the feature film and everything, what is it about that specific platform that just draws you to it?
I think that doing like a big feature film, like everything is more cinematic, like the music and the artwork that goes behind it. As much as I love TV animation, there is like a lot more. Feature film is a lot more detail oriented, whereas everything has to be perfect. Whereas TV animation is a bit more fast paced. And not as like focused on every single detail. So with feature film, I feel like wrapping up an entire story within a film like allows you to be very um, mindful of every creative decision you make. And I personally love movies. Like I am um, a passionate movie watcher, and I just really love that form of media. And I would love to see a story about Filipino mythology told within that medium.
Honestly, I feel that with the whole the detail oriented part with cinema
Hmm.
because it's like if you're working with something that's like an hour, 30 minutes to even like 2 hours, maybe even 3 hours max, it's like you only have so much time to tell a story. Whereas
Yes.
if you have like a show, it's like you could do that over the course of like 50 episodes, like a whole
Yeah.
season, or even longer than that. So it's like
Hmm.
he understand trying to like it's a lot of like there's a lot of nitpicking that like goes on with that. It's like, oh, does this look right? How is this like? There's also that factor of like in terms of cinema, especially with like premieres and everything. It's like, how is the audience gonna react to like this specific like detail or whatever? It's like, yo, that's I can see why it could draw someone a lot, especially with like this kind of like idea that you're having, because it's like, yo, this is it's big. It's like a challenge, but it's also like an artistic platform in its sense.
Hmm.
So going back to just a little bit more about like your artistry and everything, like how long have you been doing this besides like I mean you've been drawing since like you were a lot younger, but when did you start really taking it to another level?
Um, so I've always been serious about art. Like I've never seen myself like doing anything else.
Mm,
Um, but I think I became really serious about it whenever I got my first tablet, my first drawing tablet, which was, I believe, either my freshman or sophomore year in high school. And I feel like that really opened my eyes to like what I want to eventually do. Um, because before that point, I'd known that I just wanted to go in art in general. Like I just wanted to be an artist. But beginning digital art, I was like, oh, I want to go into digital mediums such as animation and work on cartoons because that's what I really love.
so going more into it, like how do you feel like your art has evolved since I mean since you got that tablet and you started just like going at it and everything, like going from school to like right now and everything, like how do you feel like it's evolved since then?
So whenever I started drawing, I felt like this goes for every artist. You kind of just draw what you see and the stuff that you like about those things. So a lot of artists have trouble finding their own style. So they tend to basically like mimic like the artists that they see online and then draw either exactly like them or like a lot of those characteristics. But then as you begin to practice more and more as an artist, you begin to find your own voice. I'm still working myself on establishing my own style. I feel like I'm all over the place sometimes. Um, but I feel like I've nailed down some characteristics that I feel are like very much like unique to my art. And I feel like that's just the biggest thing with evolving my art is just like finding my own style and finding my own voice and like kind of just creating a style for myself where people see it, like a piece of my work, and before even seeing that it's by me, they kind of just recognize that like, oh, um, that was drawn by that artist. Yeah.
So it's kind of just like again, you're essentially going through that. You're still going through that journey right now. I mean, that
Yeah.
whole artistic journey of trying to figure out like what is like which is like if someone's looking at a piece, they're just like, oh, this is Nicole's piece and everything. Like you're still
Yeah.
going through that journey, but again, this is like something that's like I mean, it's a lifelong journey for sure, and it's like there's
Yeah, for sure.
that evolution of art is still gonna consistently be there. So I'm really happy that you addressed that, because it's like yeah, we're not regardless of whatever discipline you're doing as an artist, it's like you're always gonna constantly evolve and everything.
Yes, absolutely.
So going on to the next thing and everything, like you actually have like well, I was like looking at some of your work and everything, and I was curious about this project that you have on there called Night Shift. So what exactly is that about?
So Night Shift is an animated short that I'm directing at my university. So for most people don't know, I do not attend art college anymore. I actually attend the University of Texas at Dallas, and within the animation program, we have this class called Anim Lab, which is basically an application based class where we're supposed to mimic like a real life studio environment in an animation studio. And um, I was able to pitch my idea for night shift, and thankfully, I was chose as the director. Uh, and my story, um, sorry, my story was chosen, and thankfully, by doing so, like I was also chosen as director. And my short basically, without spoiling too much of it, follows a little girl who's based on me and her yearning for the presence of one of her parents. Um, so, a little bit of backstory behind it. Growing up, my dad is a night shift nurse, and I would see him like often, but like a lot of the time, whenever he was working, he'd be sleeping during the day, obviously, and then he'd be working 12-hour night shifts at the hospital. And I remember I would always miss him, and I would just like want his presence like a lot of the time. Of course, I love being with my mom as well, but like having two parents and not being able to see one most of the time, you begin to yearn for their attention and for them to be there. So my short night shift is based on that, kind of just wanting to see someone so badly because you don't really get to see them that often, because they're working hard to provide for you. So that's mainly what my short is about. It's about family. It's about missing somebody, and there's a little bit of a fantasy element to it as well. Um, where my main character is like flying through the sky at night. But yeah, that's all I can say without spoiling too much about it.
Wow, is this the first short you've directed?
Yes, this is the first short I've ever directed. I will say directing is not an easy task. I thankfully have a co-director who keeps me sane. But yeah, the class itself is about 30 to 40 of my peers. And we have different departments such as modeling and surfacing, lighting, and all of that stuff, like an actual like departments that would be in a real life animation studio. And having a bunch of people come to you and approve stuff, and you kind of have to work through some um, like technical issues with your department leads, and like, oh, this doesn't work, how can we figure out how to make this work.
That is insane. So it's like it's a straight up studio then at that point. Like I'm just guessing about like how intense like that studio environment would be because it's like you're kind of going back and forth between like each department like you were saying like does this work, does this not? It's like I've never been in a studio like that before, but I'm just assuming that like it's very fast paced.
Yes, it's extremely fast paced. It's pretty hectic. Given this semester is a bit different since everything's online. So it's kind of just like online meeting after online meeting, whereas before I was like physically moving to places. But yes, it is so fast paced, and kind of like a lot of stuff happens all at once. And then um, like you kind of have to deal with like a lot of different issues, such as like the program we use called Autodesk Maya for the animation. Like sometimes it crashes, sometimes we can't get a certain program to work. It's really hectic. I love it, but it's very fast paced and very chaotic.
Well, but I would think that would give you some kind of like I don't know, some kind of adrenaline, but I don't know. I'm
Oh yeah,
not
it
in those
does.
shoes, but it just sounds like it.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely like my blood is like it's pumping. Yeah.
Ooh, but talking, I mean, just asking a little bit more about night shift and everything. Like, I love this story concept because it's like, yo, I mean, this is literally like your story, so that's super dope and everything. But do you have like, I mean, what is this gonna look like? Is this gonna be like premiered somewhere? Like, is it only for your school? Like, is it gonna be premiered somewhere else?
So traditionally, what my school has done for the past few years with Anim Lab shorts is that there would be an in-person premiere at the auditorium over there. But as it looks right now, that's probably not going to happen because the short itself is set to be released by December, and with the way the world's looking right now, that doesn't look very feasible, um, unfortunately. So I believe we'll be doing a digital premiere. I still don't have all the details on that yet. That's more of a logistics thing from my like professors and supervisors.
Mm.
Um, but I know that we will probably be submitting it to different film festivals and then eventually be premiering it on YouTube and Vimeo.
Yo, that's tight. And I'm even though regardless of like whatever happens, like I'm super like excited for you because this is big.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And switching gears a little bit, more so, I guess more so for like yourself and everything, but as an artist, like we go through these kinds of fogs and everything, or like blocks. Has there ever been a point, like in your artistic journey, where you ever felt like you were in some kind of fog or block?
Yes, like all the time. I feel like I'm never not in it. I feel like I'm constantly um creatively in a rut. Um I've never like really been at a point where I felt like I had reached like my creative peak, which I believe I guess is good. But I feel stuck all the time. Like I feel like some artists just like pump out a new drawing like every single day, and I'm like, why am I not like that? Why do I get like intimidated to just start a new drawing? Um, and it's really rough as an artist because like what you're doing isn't necessarily like right or wrong. Like your your job, like it's not like if you were in a non-creative field and like there's like a set like there's a specific goal I guess for non-creative fields, but like for creative fields it's like um I don't know, you feel like even if you improve like you're never good enough or you're never creative enough. So I feel like I've throughout my entire artistic journey I've never felt a moment where I wasn't stuck even if I was creating.
So it's kind of just like, well, okay, just going more into perspective with that, it kind of just feels like there's always like you were saying, because of for non-creative fields, it's like there's usually something that's either like I wouldn't say right or wrong, but it's like this is like the end goal and everything, and that's all
Yeah.
you have to do. But like when
Mhm.
it comes to like artistic fields and everything, there's so much gray area with it because it's like
Yes.
the only person you're really competing with is yourself. So it's like you're kind of going back and forth between like, is this good enough right now? Do I have to keep like pumping out like work like everyone else? It's like
Mhm.
I've never been in yours field specifically, but like hearing this kind of stuff is very validating because it's like, yo, that's some real stuff that people go through.
Yeah. It's just difficult as a creative because like you create something and it's kind of up to the discretion of other people whether it's good or not. I mean, obviously, I'm an advocate for if you make something and you're really happy with it, then like that's successful enough. But like for my own standards, um, I very much am validated by the approval of others. As much as like people wouldn't like to admit that, that's very much how um, my creative journey has been. Mostly not solely seeking the validation of other people, but I definitely feel like that is a big reward and a big motivator for a lot of creatives. Yeah.
That's very well. I mean, that's a very human trait and everything. Like there is that validation that we need from other people. So
Hmm.
as important as it is to like have your own self validation, like there is always going to be some kind of need, whatever that looks like, to have that validation from other people. And it's like
Yeah.
with art, that's even harder.
Yes. Absolutely.
If you're okay talking about it, like how do you like get out of those kinds of ruts? Or I mean, like how do you temporarily get out of them?
So for me, what I'm honestly still trying to navigate that myself. But something that helps me is kind of like looking for themes or for like prompts to draw, because like one of the biggest issues or one of the biggest challenges that comes with being a creative is like coming up with something. So following a prompt or following like a theme of something, it kind of gives you an idea, and you're able to get that idea from like a prompt and then create from there. So that's something that helps me. Just kind of like having like somebody or something giving me the initial idea first, and then I execute it in like my own way. So that's something that helps me get my creative juices like flowing a little bit. Something else that also helps me is drawing from real life. Of course, this was pre-COVID, but whenever I would like go out to a cafe or something like that, I would bring a sketchbook and a pen. I highly suggest that people start sketching with pens rather than pencils, because your um, like your pen strokes are more intentional than a pencil's because you can't erase it. Um, but like just drawing what you see, like drawing the people in that cafe, try not to be creepy about it. But like just drawing real life is a really big help in getting out of a creative rut.
Ooh, first of all, that pen narrative is so big. Like it kind of forces you to be in a point where like I mean, I wouldn't say mess up, but it's like every single line matters at this point.
Yes. Yeah.
That is such an interesting way to go about it because like I don't get to hear again, I don't get to hear like this kind of like artistic thing that much and everything. So it's like it's really nice to hear that.
Thank you.
I forgot where I was gonna go with that, but it's like having I don't know, it seems like everything that like you've been doing just embodies that whole artistic process one way or another.
Thank you so much.
Hmm. And I guess more so on that, but it seems like you already answered this part a little bit, but like I've always been curious about like how other like illustrators do this kind of thing. Like I see like dancers and other like musicians like practice and everything, but like how do you stay on top of your game as an artist? Like do you just keep practicing like drawing real life things? Like how does that look like for you?
So definitely continuously creating is how I best like stay on top of my game as an artist. But I also have to remember that like not every drawing is meant to be shown. Like it's not meant to be like consumed by the public. Like some drawings are meant to be just for practice. And that's something that I've kind of lost as of recently, but that was something I definitely stuck to um, pre-COVID. Where I would just draw because that like just the simple act of drawing helps me improve, even if it's just a little bit. And just keeping in mind that like not everything you create has to be seen, and I think that's a really big thing that not a lot of people like realize, because um, a lot of people just see like the artwork that artists create and post online, and they're like, wow, like they're such a naturally talented or gifted artist. I'm not talking about myself, but like other artists. And they're just like, wow, they're so great and it's so effortless, but you don't see like the thousands of drawings it took to make that really good one. So like an artist like probably made like hundreds and hundreds of drawings that were not the best quality before it like they came to that one really amazing drawing.
It's I totally agree with that because for the most part, a lot of people on like social media and stuff try to post like whatever is like their best work or everything because it's
Hmm.
like it's also a marketing thing, but like they're also posting what they want intended to be shown, and that's like a big thing that you were saying a while ago. But yeah, that whole thing of upon hours and hours of practice among like drawings and drawings, it's like every single thing is some kind of like stepping stone towards whatever the final product looks like, and a lot of people don't get to see that. And I don't remember where this metaphor comes from or like who started it, but it's like that's essentially like the bottom of like the iceberg theory. Like that's like what you don't see like below the surface. Like above the surface is everything that's like on Instagram, Facebook, like whatever portfolio is out in public and everything.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And going on to this last part, we've actually hit our advice section for the episode and everything. And I always like hearing like other people's perspective on like artistic journeys and everything, especially for beginners. But
Mm-hmm.
if someone approached you with questions about beginning their artistic journey or have approached you about this, like what kind of advice would you give them?
I know this is a very simple piece of advice that like seems really obvious, but like just drawing, like just do it. Just get out a sketchbook and start drawing, and even if it's so bad like you think it's absolute trash, like just keep going, like keep drawing. Like every drawing that you do will help you improve, like as much as people don't want to believe it and they don't want to see their own progress, like every drawing will help you get better and better. And it's really just getting over yourself is the biggest obstacle in starting your artistic journey, because I know a lot of people who have already, like whenever they talk to me about art, they already dismiss the idea that they can become an artist because they're not quote unquote naturally gifted. To be honest, I don't believe in being naturally gifted. Um, I think that's also very dismissive of people who have worked so hard to grow their craft. Because uh, I didn't get here just by like being born and then um like already being good at drawing. Or I mean, I don't even consider myself that good, but um like I practiced so much. And I think what a lot of people think already is that they're gonna dismiss any idea of like getting better. A lot of people are like, I can only draw a stick figure, or I can't even draw a straight line. Well, I can't even draw a straight line, so we're both in that boat. But you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people already, um, they're just like, I'm not good. I'm like this age, and I'm like not at this level. Therefore, like I can't get better. Like, no, you can. Just keep drawing. Um, that's like my biggest advice to anybody. Like anybody who's ever asked me to like how do I get started with art? Like you just have to start. You have to um like just make a bunch of bad drawings and then you'll get a good one eventually. And like that's just how it happens. Um and that's with any craft too. But yeah, and also I would highly suggest like looking at the art that you enjoy. I remember like I would study for hours like the digital artists like on, I started off on Tumblr and DeviantArt. Um, for those who are old enough to understand that. But like I would just like for hours consume art that I really love to look at, and then just find the characteristics in those pieces that you really love, and then incorporate that into your own art and make it your own. So yeah.
That whole dismissing part is very big because I see a lot of people essentially, well, I mean, yeah, discount and also like count themselves out before they even enter the race. Like
Yeah.
people are like, oh, like you were saying, people are like, oh, I'm too old, like I'm only at like this level and everything. And you being transparent about like how long it's taken, like your process and everything, it's like, yo, it takes a lot of time before you get to where you like want to be. And even then, it's like there's still a lot more evolving that is going to take place. I mean, like you said, like towards the beginning, it's like, yeah, you're still going to be growing regardless. But that advice is very, like, I definitely will take that to heart, especially with like my crafts and everything, because it's like,
Mm.
yeah, don't count yourself out at the end of the day. You still have a lot of growing to do. So I'm very thankful for this advice.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. Sorry if I rambled on about that, but yeah.
No, that is totally fine. I'd rather have you like speak on that because that whole thing is like beneficial to someone at the end of the day. So I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you.
So before we end off this episode, we've gotten to like the end point and everything. So is there like any last things you want to add, any shout outs you want to give, or any plugs that you want to like put in the episode before it ends?
Um, well, I want to tell everyone who is debating on starting their creative journey, just start it. Start it today. This is your sign. If you're looking for a sign to start your artistic journey, this is it. And some stuff that I'd like to plug. You can follow me on all my socials. I am Solicole, Solicole, on Instagram and Twitter. And then my shop Instagram is solicole.co. It's just a period and co. And yeah, it would mean a lot to me if you support my small business. It's how I get through school. Um, and yeah,
Yeah, check out Nicole's stuff. It's super dope. But Nicole, again, thank you so much for being on this episode. You created like such an amazing vibe and everything. And like I loved hearing the perspective on just like your journey and like how other people could start. So I'm super grateful for having you on this episode.
thank you so much for having me. This was really great. Yeah, this is a cool little conversation that we had, and I kind of figured out some more stuff about myself and how I think about art. But yeah, this is really cool. Thank you so much for having me.
And again, thank you again. Thank you everyone for listening like thus far. Thank you for listening for like the entire season thus far and everything. It's been an amazing journey. We will be having a few more episodes after this one in the coming weeks. There's going to be a lot more amazing guests like Nicole and the other people that have came on before. So again, thank you for listening, and we shall catch you on the next one. Peace.
Bye.